Beautiful. Good morning, beautiful family. How are you doing? Good, good. It's great to be here this morning. Belovedness, wow, what a beautiful way to begin our morning together. How many of you have had an opportunity to see or walk the Unity of Dallas Labyrinth? Anybody? Isn't it lovely? So we have this beautiful sacred tool. So a labyrinth, if you're not familiar with this as a sacred tool, it's not a maze. You can't get lost in it. It represents a journey to the center. And as you enter in, there are twists and there are turns. But if you just keep going, you'll find your way to the center. And in that center, you can use this tool for insights, for guidance, for whatever you need on your spiritual path. And as you receive that guidance, then you can walk out, and that is how we then take that insight into expression into the world. So our labyrinth is built in our back parking lot. The original Unity of Dallas Labyrinth was created, I don't know. Anyone know how many years ago the first labyrinth was created? There used to be one. It was in the parking lot. And I remember it. I've been speaking here for maybe 20 years, and I remember it from way back when. There was a time when the labyrinth was new, when the parking lot was new, and everything was smooth and shiny and perfect. And then time happens, right? Time happens. And now when you go out into our parking lot, what you find is the ground has shifted, right? There are cracks. There are spots where it's not smooth and perfect. It's a little bit bumpy out there in places. And so our fabulous team of Labyrinth volunteers, under the leadership of our chaplain team, have taken it upon themselves to repair our labyrinth. So we have a new labyrinth. It was newly painted to be an all abilities accessible labyrinth. It was painted, beautiful labyrinth laid out, but what we realized, what this team realized, is this labyrinth was intended for accessibility, all mobilities, and yet when you walk that labyrinth, as beautiful as it is, there are cracks. There are places where it's a bumpy walk. And so we set out to repair that labyrinth. I don't know about you, do you notice that sometimes relationships are kind of like that too? Like, it can get a little bumpy. In the beginning, it's all shiny and smooth and beautiful and perfect and blissful. And then time happens, and sometimes neglect happens in those relationships. Sometimes we just get sidetracked, our attention gets diverted into other things, and we don't really pay attention, and the next thing you know, we keep tripping over each other. Does that ever happen? That probably never happened to you. That happens to me sometimes. Sometimes. You know what I'm talking about? So those relationships, this is what today is about. It's about repairing the cracks as soon as we find them. It's nice when we can repair them when they're little so that we don't have to trip over them over and over and over again. So that's what we're working with today. So imagine having a tool that would help you mend those rifts as soon as you notice them. As soon as you notice that there's a crack, I stubbed my toe, or I tripped over something, we could do something about it. So that we're not in one of those relationships where it's like, yeah, it's really pretty, but watch your step. You know those, like watch your step, because there's some spots where it's a little bit tricky. When we have places like that in a relationship, what tends to happen is either we fix those cracks or we end up kind of tiptoeing around those relationships, right? Trying not to get hurt, trying not to stub our toes, trying not to get tripped up. And it makes the walk really small, whereas we have this ability to repair things and open up the journey. So in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says, therefore, this is like his big sermon. So this is like an important teaching. If you are offering your gift at the altar and then remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift right there in front of the altar. First, go and be reconciled with them. Then come and offer your gift. Don't be coming to the altar, making your sacrifice, doing your spiritual thing, but not repairing the relationships that you have in your life. Do that first. Do that first, and then your offering has more meaning. On our spiritual journey, we can only do so much when our relationships around us are out of whack. So it's important when we do our spiritual work to begin by repairing those relationships. So last week we talked about a framework for communicating the ouches, you know, like when we're in that relationship and it's like, oh, yeah, I stubbed my toe, or oh, that tripped me up. Like, how do you communicate in a relationship that something's off? And that's what we talked about last week. So I want to review us just a little bit on how do you speak your truth when you feel like you've gotten a toe stubbed in your relationships. So the first thing we talked about is the process is you share the observed reality. So the observed reality might be, you know, I was walking on this path and I stubbed my toe. That's what happened. That's the observed reality. And then we have all the thoughts. Like, so what that made me think is, oh, this shouldn't have been there. There shouldn't be this crack. I shouldn't have, this is dangerous. We should fix that. All those are the thoughts that happen as a result of that observed reality. Does that make sense? So we're separating. Here's what happened. Here's the thoughts that are happening around that. Then there's the feelings. So the feelings might be, oh, that hurt. Or it might be, you know, I'm angry that I tripped over that, or I tripped over it again, or I'm angry that someone didn't fix it, or I'm frustrated because I wanted this sacred walk and now I tripped. So we have all the feelings that go with that. So we identify what are the feelings, and then the next one is we look at what is it that we want? What is the desired reality? I want to create this sacred space. If you look at our labyrinth, what is the purpose of that labyrinth? It's to create a sacred space for all people that is accessible to all people. That's the vision, that's what we want. And when we're clear on what we want, then we can request, like, what do we need to do to get from this observed reality to that desired reality? And that's where we get to request, you know, could we fix this crack together? And that's exactly what has happened. And I have to tell you, it's been really beautiful to see this team. I want to do a shout out to our birthday girl, Louise, over here, who has been making things happen with that labyrinth. Happy birthday, friend. So Louise and her team have taken it upon themselves to repair the cracks in that labyrinth. So what that looks like is Louise shows up with her car with bags of concrete and volunteers going and bringing out buckets of water and mixing it up, doing the work on their hands and knees, filling those cracks one by one. And it didn't happen one day, it happened over time, where every time they would do it, they'd be like, this part didn't quite work the way we wanted, and so they'd go back and they'd have a different strategy, and they would do it again, and they would do it again. Like, oh, we need to do it this way. We started in the middle, but we need to start at the top, and all these things, they kept adjusting every time, doing it better and better and better, filling those cracks. And it's not done, but we're doing the work, right? We are a work in progress, are we not? We're a work in progress. And the love that is going into those repairs are creating an incredible sacred space, a place where this was our solstice celebration. Isn't it magnificent? And yes, a round of applause for our labyrinth team. On the solstice, we had people from throughout the community. People drove an hour to come walk our labyrinth on that solstice. People of all abilities, people of all ages. They came here to have a sacred experience in this space that was created and repaired and repaired and repaired and still being repaired by our amazing teams. So that's the invitation. So this week, we're looking at how do we repair our relationships, the art of the apology. Take a breath on that one. And it is an art. It is something that most of us didn't learn growing up. I didn't learn it growing up. What I learned growing up was that mistakes were bad, and I don't want to be bad. I want to be good. Mistakes are bad. I learned that grudges last forever. I learned to avoid people in situations where I thought there might be cracks developing because I didn't know how to deal with it, and so I would just avoid it. And every time we do that, every time we avoid a situation because we don't know how to deal with the feelings, we don't know what to say, every time we avoid it, we make our world that much smaller, that much smaller, that much smaller. But when we have the tools to be able to work through those, to be able to repair those cracks, now we're able to walk side by side in this journey together. It opens us up to new possibilities. So that's the invitation. What stops us from apologizing? Think about it. Ego. Yeah, sometimes it's our pride. Sometimes it's that we feel shame, we feel guilt, we don't know how to process those emotions, we don't want to be wrong. And sometimes, yeah, it's our feelings. Sometimes it's that we just don't know how. I would love to apologize, but I don't know how. I was thinking back to one of my early relationships. This guy, I was just nuts about this guy. I thought he was amazing, and he broke up with me. And I was like, oh, what'd I do wrong? I didn't even know. But I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm like, so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Really, really sorry. I didn't know what else to say. That was an apology. Like, I'm sorry. And I wonder, like, why? It's amazing he stayed with me as long as he did. That was my level of communication skills. Was just like, I don't know what I did wrong, but I'm sorry. Please come back. And it was not super pretty. So early on in my career as a speaker, I met a woman. Her name is Vicki Abadesco. So shout out to my friend Vicki, who's probably watching on the stream. She and I went through a program where we taught communication skills. Mostly to teenagers, and we taught them how to work through their feelings, how to communicate, how to apologize. And she went from that work into creating her own business called Soul Shop out of San Francisco, where she works with elementary schools, teaching kids in elementary school, how do you release that balloon of emotion that you're carrying around? How do you communicate in a way that's respectful, that communicates what you want, that helps you repair your relationships? How do you say, I'm sorry? She's teaching this to kids in elementary school. Can you imagine if you had these tools as a 6-year-old, 7-year-old? Like, wouldn't that have been great? I didn't have these skills when I was that age, did you? Like, now they're teaching it in the schools, which is so amazing. I didn't learn that. I didn't have the benefit of that as a child, so those weren't things that I talked about. Those weren't things I knew how to do. But I think Jesus is right when he says, if someone is hurting because of something that you did, before you go give your gifts in other ways, take care of that. Take care of that first. Mend that path before you start walking on it. Does that make sense? All right. So here's how it works. This is a framework, and I've been using it for years. It is one of the most powerful tools that I have in my tool belt. It doesn't make it easy, but it is a powerful tool. So the first step is to acknowledge. So when we recognize that, oh, somebody tripped and that was my foot out there that they tripped on, then to acknowledge that this is what I did. I acknowledge that there's a crack in the labyrinth and I knew about it and I didn't fix it. I acknowledge it. Acknowledging is about taking responsibility and and that means owning up to what we have done, our actions, being responsible for our actions. So I was dating a guy once, and every time I would, and I tended to like hold it in, explode. And then he would say something like, this was his apology, he would say, I'm sorry you feel that way. I know, and I'm like, I mean, that's empathy, but that's not an apology. That's empathy, but it's not an apology. I'm like, okay, here's a hot tip. I'm sorry you is not an apology. I'm sorry you did that. I'm sorry you're having a hard time. That's not an apology. An apology, taking responsibility, is I'm sorry I didn't fix the crack in the labyrinth. I'm sorry I did whatever that thing is. So we start with just acknowledging. And then step 2 is say I apologize. I acknowledge this is what I did, and I apologize. Let's try it. Take a deep breath in, and just say, I apologize. And see, no one gets struck by lightning. Nothing bad happens. We can just say, I apologize. Simple as that. And then the next step is to recognize what that interaction has done in someone else's experience. So it's letting people know, I get, not just that I did this, but I'm understanding what it must have been like from your perspective. So I acknowledge that, I didn't fix the crack, and I apologize. I know that you tripped, and I know that must have hurt, and I know you must be frustrated. I acknowledge and I recognize that this makes it difficult for you to walk the labyrinth, whatever the thing is. You recognize what it means to someone else, and then after you recognize it, let them know that you understand how they're feeling, what might be going on for them. The next step is to recognize, make amends. And that's when we ask, what can I do to make this right? What can I do to make this right? In the Bible, it talks about Zacchaeus, who was the tax collector. And Jesus is walking by, and Zacchaeus is there, and Jesus says, I want to stay at your house tonight. And everyone says, everyone grumbled. That's biblical. Everyone grumbled. That's been happening since biblical times. Everyone grumbled. Why Zacchaeus? He's the tax collector. He's an awful guy. Why didn't I get to have Jesus stay at my house? Because I'm much better than Zacchaeus. He's a terrible person. And Zacchaeus in that moment said, I will give half of my possessions away. If I've cheated anyone, I will repay 4 times as much. I will make amends for what I have done so that I can receive this Christ essence, so I can receive the Christ. I will make amends for what I have done. And Jesus says to the crowd, this is why I'm here. I'm here to create that kind of transformation for people like this. That's what we're here to do. When we're doing this work, it is holy work. It is sacred work. So we make amends. What can I do to make it right? And then we make it right. So the final step is we recommit to doing things differently next time. And then we do it. So it's not enough just to say, I'm sorry. You ever have someone that says, I'm sorry all the time, and then they keep doing the thing? They still keep doing the thing over and over and over again? So if you want the apology to really stick, we've got to be changed by the interaction. And that is the beautiful thing about resolving conflict. When we bump up against each other, it means that we're in community. It means that we're in family together. We bump up against each other. And when we can move through those ouches, those stubbed toes, or worse, when we can move through those injuries together and talk through it, we can create transformational change. So here is what it looks like when you put all this together. So I want to acknowledge here in my week 6, what is it? Hasn't been that long, my 4th talk, I think. I want to acknowledge that there's been a lot of changes happening in our community. A lot of changes. And I want to acknowledge that I'm aware that some of these changes came very fast, and some of them, you didn't have a heads up on them. So I apologize for that. And I recognize that because things have been changing so fast, it's caused some hurt feelings. It's caused people to feel like they aren't important or like their voice doesn't matter. And for that, I am truly sorry. I apologize for that. And I want to make it right. So I want you to know that my email is mindy@unitydallas.org, and I am open to your feedback. If there's something that you feel like has happened that feels like it is not setting well with you, please reach out, and I would love to have a conversation. We also have our community board out there where you can put your ideas, your suggestions, and we read them. I read them every single week. I keep a list of them. I don't read them and then put them away. I keep a list of them. We implement what we can. I also want to let you know we have a new series starting in a couple of weeks, and every time we do a new series, it's an opportunity to try something new. So if there's something that you see that you're like, I really don't like this thing, I wish it was this way, now you have an opportunity, a forum, in the next couple of weeks to let me know what your ideas are. What would you like to see? And it could be anything. Nothing's off the table. Is there an opening song you'd like? Is there a song you'd like for the meditation? Are there certain artists you'd like to hear? Let us know, because we are creating this together. And I recommit and commit to giving you a little more onboarding, a little more ramp up to the changes that are coming, so that you can have the space to have your voice and your ideas be part of the mix. Do you forgive me? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I love you all. I love you all. So that's what it looks like when you pull it all together. And it's amazing when you have that kind of tool to be able to set things right, to smooth the path. Now, what tends to happen is after you move through something like that with a person or with a group, the relationship actually becomes stronger. We fortify those relationships. And those are the relationships that last. My sister worked in customer service for a while for a large company here, and she said that with their clients, they found that the most loyal clients, they had this loyalty program, the most loyal clients were not the ones where everything went right all the time. The most loyal clients were the ones that had an issue that was resolved in a fast and powerful way. And once we know that we can work through things together, we're able to do so much more. Now, the warning is, forgiveness is not guaranteed. So you can do what you can do, and then that other person will do whatever they do. You can offer it. It doesn't have to be taken. The other thing to be aware of is that if you're upset about something, relationships happen in communication, so chances are, if one person is sharing something that is challenging for them and you apologize, there's probably going to be the flip side of that. So it's very seldom that these are one-sided conversations. So be prepared for that and embrace that when it comes. Because if you're coming from pride, pride will say, well, hey, if you want a relationship with me, you just got to deal with it. This is who I am. This is my rough spots. If you want to walk this path, you just got to know it's going to be a bumpy path. And that's pride. That's what pride says. But what love says is, I'm willing to repair the broken spots so that we can walk together. I'm willing to do that work. And if we care about each other, then we talk it out. Right? So I'm from Texas. I'm a Southern belle. I am. I have a crystal deviled egg tray that I got as a wedding gift. How many of you have a crystal deviled egg tray? Yes. You see the Southern belles in the room. I know that all is singular and all y'all is plural. I know all the things of a Southern belle. We're very nice. And I was raised to be nice. And bringing up conflict and stepping into this kind of stuff, I was taught that that wasn't nice. You don't do that. You don't strike the hornet's nest, right? You don't do that. It's not nice. But as I was learning these tools, one of my mentors came to me and he said, you know what nice stands for, don't you? I said, no. He said, nothing inside cares enough. If you're being nice instead of speaking your truth, it's because nothing inside cares enough to get over that ego, to get through that pride, to get through that shame. If you cared enough, you would do the uncomfortable thing. You would say whatever needs to be said to make things right. So every time I find myself wanting to be the nice person and not say anything, I remember that. Nothing inside cares enough. So, what if every time we do better, when you know better, you do better, right? When you know better, you do better. What if every time we have those difficult conversations, we are healing just a little bit of the brokenness in the world? What if that's the opportunity we have with every conversation, with every crack in the road? Would you be willing to do that? Yes. Take a deep breath in and say, I'm willing. And so it is. And so it is. And so let's take this into our meditation. I invite you to take a deep breath in. There's an ancient Hawaiian spiritual practice called Ho'oponopono that my friend Joe Vitale told me all about. And in Ho'oponopono, he has 4 phrases that you recite as mantra. And they're really not phrases you direct to anyone in particular. They're phrases that go out to the universe. And they are, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you. And so let us bring those words into our consciousness as we embark on this very human journey as spiritual beings, having these human experiences. There are times when we trip. There are times when we make mistakes. There are times when even when we're doing the best we can, we fall short. And so we send this prayer out into the universe. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. I I'm sorry for all the times I fall short. Please forgive me and let me release this and let go. I love you. Love is the truth of who we are. I love you. I love you, life. I love you, humanity. I love you, God. I love you. Thank you. Thank you for this moment. Thank you for this opportunity to start again. Thank you for forgiveness. Thank you for the journey. Thank you for the expansion, the opportunity to learn and to grow, the opportunity to connect as one spiritual family. Let us take this into the silence as we move into the power of apology and forgiveness. We bring to mind any relationship that might be needing repair. Any situation that we could today, without waiting another day, reach out, extend our hand, our heart, and do our best to make things right. We know that this is how we grow spiritually. This is how we expand in love. This is how we know true freedom. And for this, we give thanks.